Okay, so we're going to cover the first 5 weeks of capstone. To start off with, network discovery, network design, hardware adjustments. I'll try to go through, we got 16 slides, and so I'll try to be brief and just kind of highlight, and then we can always go back if you have individual things you want to talk to me about. So, background, we're going to finish up the work that they did in the capstone last year. They had a lot of cleanup to do for a lot of things. And so now we're going to take where they left off, and then we're going to continue the project, and we have some goals that we want to accomplish in terms of taking the NIAC IT and improving and making more efficient, and how we're going to manage information and so forth, how we manage the assets, the whole works. First of all, here's a rough draft of a sort of a physical topology. Currently we have, if I was to draw this and kind of do it like this, we have PC 228, we have that wiring closet, then we have classroom 229, we have classroom 216, we have the wiring closet in the back of 216, and in reality, that would be, it was previously 218, so if you look in some of the books, the information, you will see that listed as 218. Then we have that server room where we have the rack with the servers, 240, which is actually in the back of 216. So if we were to look at the firewall multi-layered switch, this stuff is all located in that wiring closet. So based on the green here, we would like to take and move, actually we have a new switch here in the rack for that, and we'd like to take that firewall, and those would all be here in that server room in the back of 216, 240. Currently we have a line that runs all the way back to this closet, PC 229 for this switch, and then the DMZ that runs into the closet, and that goes to the firewall. This other line, let me just make a blue line here, that goes into the multi-layered switch. And let's go red, multi-layered switch, then that goes in here, goes all the way up here to the server. So like if you're logging in, you got to go all the way to the server. 216 comes all the way back to this wiring closet, and it's also connected into the multi-layered switch. Why it looks like it does? Well, if we were to look at this, diagram-wise, 216 was in the old McAllister building with 218. 218 was right here, 215, and 217. 15, 16, 17, 18. Then they added on the Papa John Center, so they used this wiring closet here to connect to this wiring closet here and then distribute it. So they ran 5 lines there and ran 4 lines to classroom, 4 lines to 228, and then they ran some lines back to 216 so that those would all be serviced from there. And when they put on the building, they had this storage area behind 224, so that ended up being 240 for the server room eventually. Alright. So here's the rack. We moved the G9s to the top, the G9 servers. We have the new Nexus switch, which we have connected, and not connected to the devices yet. We have a catalyst switch now. The firewall is still in the other room, but is functional in terms of being connected to our devices here through a trunk. So what we want to do is we want to set up VLANs in order to connect from the Nimble all the way up to the Nexus on separate VLANs for data. And then the G9s, they'll be connected. Bundle those up. And then these, which currently our network functions off of, they'll become set up for student use. And then Jim talked about over here, we talked about virtual switches. So we got some work to do there in terms of setting it up. VLANs for data, host management, and then network. DMZ coming off here yet. Going back here. I'm not sure about 215. Then from here we'll go out to the internet. And here's some information about the devices. Alright. There's a lot more detail to that, but we're going to move on. Took a tour of Newman. We looked at their network, how it's configured, the server, and a little bit about that. We also brought back some workstations that we are now working on getting configured, in which we will update. We have a whole list of things to do there and so forth. So we spent the whole day at Newman getting a background, and then we're going to look at how we can support, besides just updating the donated workstations, how we can support services that they're providing. FYI, they are a Google environment for the students in the school, and then I believe they use Power School to manage their school information, and then they have some separate packages for the finance, which we will not get involved with at all. Third day, course overview, network design. Okay, so we've got Newman Catholic setup, NIAC, we talked about the academic IT and the college itself. Omnitel, we're waiting to hear back as far as a tour. We talked about some tools, network discovery, managing assets, and monitoring the network. What kind of tools are we going to use? Everybody has a mentoring business they need to be communicating with about every other week. asking them some questions about how they do something we're trying to do. Everybody's got to keep their personal journal as far as everything they do personally, and then we're going to use some project management software. I think we're using Trilio. I think that's what they're using. And Chris decided, volunteered to be the project manager. Things we got to look at: network. We have our servers, what software we're running, what we need to do for the users, and security policies and so forth. A number of things we want to include. Talked about agile, rapid prototyping, or waterfall. Most of our work is going to be the agile. Not sure, we did talk here a little bit about firewall. Already talked about these. Okay, day 4. Capstone. Document the network. We've got to be doing a lot of work on document. We talked a little more about the Newman project. We talked about what happens to the water level if you have a big boulder on a boat in a pond and the boulder goes to the bottom of the pond. Does the water level go up or go down? Actually, water level go down. The mass of the boulder will not displace as much water as the boulder's weight pushing on the boat, pushing the water up. So when the boulder goes in the water level actually will go down. May or may not believe that. Okay, we talked about switches. Talked about some work on clear touch and so forth. Got an administrative password. It's a guest administrative password for access. All these are some tasks. We got some switches we need to power up and test. Clear touch on IAC IT. Jesse took care of that. We talked about that. Mentioned some of those things. Here are the current switches. We went ahead and labeled those. We talked about the connection here to the firewall, and we talked about some addressing here, cleared up what we currently have for VLANs. This is in 228A, switch in 229. We also have a DMZ. We have this DMZ addressing. This is our, here's another color, our internal network, our main internal network. We do have a VLAN 20 that we use at times. We're using it right now, in fact. And this addressing is the connection between the multi-layer switch and the firewall. I got the word storage over here, but I'm not real sure what that's referring to. Okay, we'll move on. Everybody has an account on either one of the G9s. So you can start experimenting as far as virtual machines and so forth. Yeah, our plan, right, is to create a new server, DHCP, DNS, and etc., get that all set up so that either in the summer we can test it, switch over and test it during the summer. I have some classes in May, and so then next year, next fall, everything will be on those G9s, and then all the other devices can be used for classroom work. All the other Blade servers in the rack. Students were doing some work, and we talked about this idea. The switch was just being used as a pass-through to get to the firewall for the DMZ2. The firewall has a DMZ1 that goes to 229, and we don't have separate wires to run back into MH216, so we just send that traffic on a trunk, and it literally just passes through the switch and goes here on VLAN 22. Our main VLAN's 31. We do have a VLAN, we got a couple others, but we have a VLAN 20 that we used to use for our traffic outside of the regular network, but now we are using DMZs. We have a DMZ1 and a DMZ2. Okay. 4 more slides. Another day, another dollar. It's Friday, day 5. Well, this will be it. Capstone. We have a big list of things here to do. Let's take a look at them. So, we've got a whole group of things here to do for the Newman project. I'm not sure how much support they want, but we've got some things here that would be questions, maybe need to ask, and so forth. So we have a list, and we need to talk about how we're going to image the machine and then move forward with that. Line disk, we did an example today. They did an example. Cody Weiner did an example for us today. Wiring, we're going to order some of the parts, and then we're going to set a date to actually do that. The switches, we've got some work to do with those. We didn't get too far on that yet. We got 216 organized. We got these machines up and running in PC 229. They're on DMZ 1. Reminded students, journals, if you have questions, contact me. And the business mentor, we talked a little bit about making sure we don't overburden them with generic questions. We want our questions a little more specific about the current topics that we're talking about. So we'll probably have a list of those for Friday we should look at. We're going to put this on hold. We thought about doing it on the 28th, but I think we're just going to put it on hold. We don't want to interview them until we're sure we have things we need to ask. We talked about best practices, that's in the curriculum, design concepts. You can be adding design concepts all the time. We have some key things to look at for requests. We need to get the big requests for next year, so we need to look at the space in MH216, devices, computers, how we want to do that. Kind of have to look at the space to see how the devices will fit in and what major work that may need to be done. Alright, I guess this is a repeat of the previous slide. I think we talked about all of that. And this was some added information down here. We talked about, I talked about to one of the students, it might have been Chris. We got Wi-Fi connected to a Linux box. So we have an AP connected here to the DMZ1, and we have a workstation here. So we could literally do this. You could connect to the workstation from the cloud, right? Connect here from the internet, from home. You can use DMZ1 if you have this Wi-Fi address. Then you can connect here to this Linux box sitting in the room without a direct address to it. The reason is, if you hook it up to the lab, you can set this to match the lab work, right? So then you can telnet to this Linux machine, which is connected to the lab work, and then you can also connect from this workstation to the router that connects to all the devices. So you can have a box on a device and actually manage that device through the Wi-Fi and have it on that lab network. Crazy. I tried it, works. Performance was terrible, but I'm not sure where our performance issue was. Well, that's kind of an overview of where we're at. The key things would be to our work on Fridays needs to be efficient. We've got security work starting. We've got security work starting in the curriculum, in the capstone curriculum, and the first stuff we're doing Palo Alto stuff. So we'll need to be working on that outside of the class and then being efficient on Fridays to get our work done. Big thing now is design, narrowing down the design, and then what things we need to buy, to order down the road. Alright, that's it.